Hello everyone. So today we will start with two-dimensional arrays. We've already finished one-dimensional arrays in about 7 videos, and the link of the playlist of one-dimensional arrays I will put in the description below. So today we will learn two-dimensional arrays. So the topic for today is we will see what are two-dimensional arrays, then we will learn how to declare two-dimensional arrays, then how to initialize two-dimensional array, and then compile time and runtime initialization. Now before we start with two-dimensional arrays, we will revise some basic definitions which we have already covered in one-dimensional arrays. So the basic definition of array is that it is used to hold more than one value and of similar type. Say for example, an integer array will hold many values of only integer data type. Next we had seen what are one-dimensional arrays. One-dimensional arrays will have only one subscript and array values always start from 0. Now we will see what are two-dimensional arrays. Two-dimensional arrays will have two subscript and it will be represented as a table, or we can say as a matrix, and we know matrix has rows and columns. So in this case the matrix will start from the 0th row and from the 0th column. So in this video, we will learn two-dimensional arrays in detail. First, we will see how to declare two-dimensional arrays, and two-dimensional arrays will be represented in the form of a matrix. So that means it will have rows and columns. The syntax for declaration is, first we write the data type, then the array name, and then the row size and the column size. Data type will give us the type of the array. Say for example, if it is an integer array, then data type will be int. Or say if it is an array which holds only decimal values, then the data type will be float. Next we specify the array name. Array name will give us the name of the array. Here the rules are the same as we had used for one-dimensional arrays. That is, we cannot use any special symbols apart from underscore. And also we cannot use any keywords while specifying the array name. So we can give any array name, but make sure you do not use any special symbols apart from underscore, and also do not give any keywords. Next, we know that two-dimensional arrays is represented as a matrix. So that means it will have rows and it will have columns. So as a result, we need to specify the row size and the column size. So in the first square brackets, we will give the row size, which means the maximum number of rows in the matrix. Next we will give the column size. In this also we write inside the square brackets. So this will give us the maximum number of columns inside the matrix. Now say for example, if we write int a and in square brackets 2 and 4, it means that it is an integer array. Name of the array is A, the maximum number of rows is 2 and the maximum number of columns is 4. So a two-dimensional array having name A and 2 rows and 4 columns can be represented in this form. Now we know that array values start from 0. So in two-dimensional array, it will start from 0th row and 0th column. Now over here, the row size was 2, so we will have 2 rows, but rows start from 0, so this will be 0th row and this will be the first row. Then the column size was 4, so we have 4 columns over here, but columns start from 0, so this will be 0th column, this will be first column, this will be second, and this will be third. Now these are the positions. So this position will be A of 0, 0 because this is the 0th row and this is the 0th column. So this position will be A of 0, 0. This will be A of 0, 1 because this is the 0th row and this is the first column. This position will be A of 0, 2 because this is 0th row and second column. This will be 0, 3 because it is the 0th row and third column. Similarly, this position will be A of 1, 0 because this is the first row and the 0th column. This will be A of 1, 1 because this is the first row and this is the first column. Similarly for the other elements. Now this whatever I have written here, these are the position, these are not the values inside the array. How to insert values, that we will see in the next slide. So whatever I have written here, I have 0, 0, 0, 1, these are the positions. I've written A of 0, 0, A of 0, 1 because the name of the array is A. Also, we need to know here that even though it is represented as a matrix, inside the memory it will be stored in continuous form. We'll see another example. Here we've written int ABC 2 and 2, which means that it is an integer array. Name of the array is ABC. The maximum number of rows is 2 and maximum number of columns is 2. So this can be represented in this form. That is, the maximum number of rows was 2. So we have 2 rows over here. The rows start from 0. So this will be the 0th row. This will be the first row. And the maximum number of columns was 2. So we will have 2 columns. Since columns start from 0, this will be the 0th column and this will be the first column. So this will be ABC of 0, 0. This will be ABC of 0, 1. This will be 1, 0 and this will be 1, 1. So inside memory, it will be stored in a continuous form. Next, we will learn how to initialize two-dimensional arrays. Initialization meaning we need to insert some values inside the array. So there are two ways of initializing. One is compile time and second is run time. So first we will learn compile time initialization. In compile time initialization, first only we specify the values. That is, before we run the code or before we execute the code, the values will be assigned inside the array. The syntax for compile time initialization is, we write the data type, the array name, in square brackets the row size and the column size, and in this curly bracket we specify the values to be inserted. So first we write the data type. Data type will be the type of the array. So for example, if it is an integer array, data type will be int, or say if it is a float array, data type will be float. So this way there are many data types. Next we specify the array name, which will give the name of the array. Then in the first square brackets, we specify the row size. It will be the maximum number of rows. And in the second square bracket, we specify the column size, which will be the maximum number of columns. Then in this curly brackets, we specify the list of values. These are the values which we want to insert inside the array. So let us see an example. It means that it is an integer array. Name of the array is A. The maximum number of rows is 2 and the maximum number of columns is 4. And these are the values which we want to insert inside the two-dimensional array. So whatever values we have written inside the first pair of curly brackets are the elements of the first row. So the first row will have elements as 10, 20, 30 and 40. And whatever we have written inside the second pair of curly brackets are the elements to be inserted inside the second row. So second row will have elements as 50, 60, 70 and 80. Now one important thing we need to know here is that the rows in two-dimensional arrays will start from 0. So these elements will belong to the 0th row and these elements will belong to the first row. Now if we want, we can even discard this extra pair of curly brackets which we have used. This extra pair of curly brackets are just used to make the program more readable or make it more easier to understand. So another way of writing this is using this form. Over here we can see that the extra pair of curly brackets has been discarded. So we can either write it in this form or in this form. Over here it will just make the program more readable. So any method you can use. So after inserting values either using this method or this method, we will get this two-dimensional arrays. That is, we had specified that the maximum number of rows was 2. So we have 2 rows. And since rows start from 0, this will be the 0th row and this will be the first row. The maximum number of columns which we had specified was 4. So we have 4 columns. And since columns start from 0, this will be the 0th column, this will be the first column, this will be the second and this will be the third column. Now these are the positions. So this position will be A of 0, 0 because this is the 0th row, 0th column. This will be 0, 1 because the 0th row first column. This will be 0, 2 because this is the 0th row second column. And similarly for the other elements. So the elements will be stored in order. That is, this first element 10 will be stored at A of 0, 0. Then second element 20 at 0, 1. Then the third element 30 at 0, 2. Then the fourth element at 0, 3. Then the fifth at 1, 0, sixth at a of 1 1, seventh element that is 70 at a of 1 2, and the last element 80 at a of 1 3. So this is how the elements will be stored. So let us see another example. This means that it is an integer array. Name of the array is B. The row size is 2 and the column size is 3. So these are the elements which will be inserted inside the two-dimensional array. So whatever we've written inside this first pair of curly brackets will be inserted inside the first row, and whatever we've written inside the second pair of curly bracket will be inserted inside the second row. Now we know that in two-dimensional arrays the rows start from 0. So these elements, that is 11, 12 and 19, will be inserted inside the 0th row, and these elements, that is 13, 15 and 70, will be inserted inside the first row of the array. Now over here, these extra brackets which we have written are just used to make the program more readable. If we want, we can write them or we can discard them, but make sure that you will write this comma after every element inside the array. And finally, we need to write this semicolon. So another way of writing is using this method. Here we can see that we have discarded the extra curly bracket. So we can either write in this form or this method. Only thing here is that this will make the program more readable. So we can use any method we want. So after inserting, we will get this two-dimensional array. That is, we had mentioned 2 rows. So we have 2 rows over here. Since rows start from 0, this will be 0th row and this will be the first row. Then we had mentioned 3 columns. So we have 3 columns. Since columns start from 0, this will be the 0th column, this will be the first, and this will be the second. And the elements will be inserted in order. That is, the first element 11 will be stored at B of 0 0. Then the second element 12 will be stored at B of 0 1. Third element 19 will be stored at B of 0 2, and similarly the other elements. Another thing we need to know here is that specifying the row size is not required. That is, even if we don't write this row size, we won't get any error, but specifying the column size is important. But this will work only for compile time initialization. But it is always a good practice to specify both the row size and the column size. Next, we will see runtime initialization. Runtime initialization meaning user will enter the values when you are running the code or executing the code. Since user will enter the values, we will make use of scanf. And since we are making use of arrays, user will enter more than one value. That means user will enter values again and again. So over here, some process is repeated, and since process is repeated, we will make use of loops. So in this case, we will use nested for loops. The reason we use nested for loops is because we need to store elements in the form of a matrix. So as a result, we will use nested for loops. So let us see the code. First we write the header file, then the program will start from the main function. Then we will declare all the variables which we will be using in the code. First we have declared an integer array. Name of the array is A. The maximum number of rows is 2 and the maximum number of columns is 3. These two other integer variables I and j have been declared because we have used them in the nested for loop. First it will ask the user to enter the elements. So we will enter the elements inside the two-dimensional array with the help of nested for loop. Nested for loop meaning inside one for loop we will have another for loop. So I'll just explain in brief how nested for loop works. First we initialize the outer for loop, then check for the condition of the outer for loop. If the outer for loop condition is satisfied, it will start with the inner for loop. So first it will initialize the inner for loop, then it will check for the condition of the inner for loop. If the inner for loop condition is satisfied, it will execute the statement inside the inner for loop. After executing the statement, it will increment the inner for loop. Then again check the condition of the inner for loop. If the condition is satisfied, again it will execute the statement. So this process will go on till the inner loop condition is not satisfied or till the inner loop terminates. So once the inner loop terminates, it will continue back with the outer for loop. That is, it will increment this I and it will continue back with the outer for loop. And the same process will be repeated till the outer for loop condition is not satisfied. So let us see this for loop. First we initialize I value to 0. The reason we initialize I value to 0 is because the rows in two-dimensional array start from 0. It will go on till I less than 2. We have written I less than 2 is because number of rows is 2. So it will go on till I less than the number of rows. So if the condition is satisfied, it will start with the inner for loop. So this side I have explained with an example. First we initialize I to 0, then we will check 0 less than 2. 0 is less than 2, condition is satisfied, so it will start with the inner for loop. So in the inner for loop, first it will initialize j to 0. Then the reason we initialize j to 0 is because the columns start from 0 and it will go on till j less than the number of columns. Number of columns was 3, so it will go on till j less than 3. So if the condition is satisfied, it will execute the statement inside the inner for loop, which is a scanf statement. So whatever value the user enters will be stored in this array A. So there is only one statement inside the for loop. As a result, I have not put those curly brackets. So j value will be 0. It will check is 0 less than 3. 0 less than 3 condition is satisfied, and so it will execute this scanf statement. Suppose user enters value as 10. So whatever value the user enters will be stored in the array values. It will be stored in array A, that is A of ij. I value is 0, j value is 0. So it will be stored at position A of 0, 0. So we can see that this 10 value is stored at position A of 0, 0. Then after it executes this statement, j value will get incremented. So j is incremented. After incrementing, j value will become 1. Again it will check for the condition. Is 1 less than 3? Yes, 1 less than 3 condition is satisfied. So this condition is satisfied. So it will execute this scanf statement. So suppose user enters value as 20. So this 20 will be stored at a position A of ij. I value is 0. J value is 1. So 20 will be stored at position A of 0, 1. So we can see that 20 is stored at position A of 0, 1. Then again j value will get incremented. So j value will become 2. J is 2 here. So it will check is 2 less than 3. Yes, condition is satisfied. So this condition is satisfied. So again it will execute this scanf statement. Say suppose user enters 30. So that 30 will be stored at A of 0, 2. A of 0, 2 because I value is 0. J value is 2. So 30 will be stored at A of 0, 2. So this 30 we can see that it is stored at position A of 0, 2. Then again j value will be incremented. So j value will become 3. So it will check is 3 less than 3. 3 is not less than 3. So the inner loop will terminate. So this condition is not satisfied. So the inner loop will terminate. Now once the inner loop terminates, it will continue with the outer for loop. So we can see that once the inner for loop terminates, now the I value will get incremented. Initially it was 0, now I value has become 1. So we can see that after this first iteration, we have inserted values in the 0th row, that is 10, 20 and 30. The elements in the 0th row has been inserted. So after incrementing I value, again it will check for the outer loop condition. If the outer loop condition is satisfied, it will start the inner loop again from the beginning. So after incrementing I value has become 1, so it will check for the outer loop condition, that it will check if 1 less than 2. It will check if 1 less than 2. 1 is less than 2, condition is satisfied. So it will start the inner loop again from the beginning. So j value will become 0. So it will check for the inner loop condition, that is it will check if 0 less than 3. So this condition is satisfied. So condition is satisfied. So it will execute this scanf statement. Say suppose user enters value as 40, it will be stored at position 1, 0. Position 1, 0 because I value is 1 and j value is 0. So we can see that 40 is placed at position 1, 0. Then j value will get incremented. After j value is incremented, again it will check for the inner loop condition, that is it will check if 1 less than 3. 1 is less than 3, condition is satisfied. So it will execute scanf statement. Say suppose user enters value as 50. It will be stored at A of 1, 1 because I is 1 and j is 1. So we can see that 50 is inserted at position A of 1, 1. Then again the inner loop will be incremented. So j value will become 2. So j value is 2. Again it will check, is 2 less than 3? Yes, condition is satisfied. So it will execute this scanf statement. Say suppose user enters value as 60. So that will be stored at a of 2 position, sorry, of 1, 2 position, because I value is 1 and j value is 2. So it will be stored at a of 1, 2. So we can see that 60 is stored at a of 1, 2. Then again j value will be incremented. So j value will become 3. After incrementing, j value will become 3. So it will check for the inner loop condition. Is 3 less than 3? No. So the condition is not satisfied. So this inner loop terminates. After the inner loop terminates, it will increment the outer for loop. So this I value will get incremented. Now we can see here that after this iteration, we have inserted values in the first row. That is 40, 50 and 60 has been inserted. So after the inner loop terminates, the outer for loop will be incremented. So I value will become 2. So again it will check for the outer for loop condition. Outer for loop condition is 2 less than 2. 2 is not less than 2, so the outer for loop will also terminate. So this is how we insert values inside the two-dimensional arrays using nested for loops. Finally, we've written this return 0 statement because we've written int main and main returns an integer value. So next we'll see the code of how to insert and display elements in a two-dimensional array using compile time initialization. Compile time initialization meaning first only we assign the values before we run the code. So first we write the header file, then the program will start from the main function. We have declared two integer variables I and j. This I and j variables will be used inside the nested for loops. Then we have declared an integer array A. The number of rows is 2 and the number of columns is 2. And whatever values we have written inside this curly brackets will be inserted inside this two-dimensional array. Now how to insert values at compile time we have already seen in the previous slides. So after inserting these values, we will get this two-dimensional array. That is, the value 10 will be stored at position A of 0, 0. And the second value 20 will be stored at 0, 1. Third element 30 will be stored at A of 1, 0. And the last element 40 will be stored at A of 1, 1 position. After inserting, we need to print the elements of the array. So to print the elements of a two-dimensional array, we need to use nested for loops. So how nested for loop works, we have already seen in the previous slide. So first we initialize I value to 0. The reason we initialize I value to 0 is because rows start from 0. It will go on till I less than 2. We have taken 2 here, that is because the number of rows is 2. So it will go on till I less than the number of rows. So we initialize I value to 0. It will check if 0 less than 2. 0 less than 2 condition is satisfied. So it will execute the inner for loop. So now this condition is satisfied. So j value will be initialized to 0. The reason we initialize j value to 0 is that is because columns start from 0. It will go on till j less than 2. J less than 2 because number of columns is 2. So it will go on till j less than the number of columns. So j value is 0. So it will check if 0 less than 2. 0 less than 2 condition is satisfied. So if this condition is satisfied, it will execute the statement inside this for loop. So inside this for loop, we have a printf statement. So it will print the value at the position A of ij. So in this case, it will print value at position A of 0, 0. A of 0, 0 because I value is 0 and j value is 0. So it will print the value at this particular position. So the value at this position is 10. So it will print 10. After that, j value will get incremented. J value will become 1. So again it will check if 1 less than 2. 1 is less than 2. The condition of the inner for loop is satisfied. So it will print the value at this particular position. So it will print the value at position A of 0, 1. So it will print the value 20. So 20 will be printed. Then j value will be incremented again. J value will become 2. So again it will check for the inner loop condition if 2 less than 2. Now 2 is not less than 2, so the inner loop will terminate. So this inner loop will terminate. Now after this iteration, we can see that the values of the first row have been printed, that is 10 and 20 will be printed. After that, there is a printf statement which prints /n, that means the output will come on the next line. The reason we use this /n is because we need to print the output in the form of matrix. So after the first two elements have been printed, the next element, that is 30, should be printed on the next line. So in order to print in the form of a matrix, we have printed a /n over here. Fine. After that, the I value will be incremented. So I value will become 1. I value is 1. So it will check for the outer loop condition if 1 less than 2. 1 is less than 2, condition is satisfied. That is, this condition is satisfied. So it will execute the inner for loop. So that means j value will become 0. Then it will check if 0 less than 2. 0 less than 2 condition is satisfied. So it will print the element at the position A of 1, 0. A of 1, 0 because I value is 1, j value is 0. So it will print element 30. So 30 will be printed. Then j value will become 1. Okay, j value is 1. It will check if 1 less than 2. Yes, condition is satisfied. So it will print element at position A of 1, 1 because I is 1 and j is 1. So it will print this 40. Then j value will increment again. J value will become 2. So again it will check is 2 less than 2. No. So the inner loop will terminate. So this inner loop will terminate. So we can see that after this, the elements of this row, that is 30 and 40, has been printed. After that, it will print a /n. It will print a /n, and after it prints a /n, it will increment I value again. I value was 1, so now it will become 2. So again it will check for the condition. Is 2 less than 2? 2 is not less than 2. So the outer for loop will also terminate. So this outer 2 is not less than 2, so it will stop. So this outer for loop will also terminate and it will come out of this for loop. After this for loop, we have this return 0 statement. We have written this just because we have written int main over here. So this is how we display elements using nested for loops. So the output of the code will be, it will print 10, 20, 30 and 40. This 30 and 40 has come on the next line because we were printing this /n over here. Next we will see the code of how to insert and display elements using runtime initialization. Runtime initialization meaning user will enter the values when you are running the code or when you are executing the code. So first we write the header file and the program will start from the main function. Then declare all the variables which we'll be using in the code. We have declared an integer array A. The maximum number of rows is 10 and the maximum number of columns is 10. We have taken a larger value because this is runtime initialization and we did not know how many values the user will enter. So as a result, we always try to take a larger value. Then we have declared another integer variable R. This will hold the number of rows. Then another integer variable C which will hold the number of columns. And these two variables I and j will be used inside the for loops. So first we will ask the user to enter the number of rows and columns. The number of rows which user enters will be stored in this variable R and the number of columns which the user enters will be stored in this variable C. So this side I'll explain with an example. So suppose user enters R value as 2, that is rows will be 2 and the number of columns as 2. Next it will ask the user to enter the elements. Now to enter the elements inside a 2-dimensional array, we will use nested for loops. How we enter using nested for loop, that we have already seen in the previous slide. So we initialize I value to 0 because rows start from 0. It will go on till I less than R. R is the number of rows. Then in the inner for loop, it will start from j equal to 0 because the columns start from 0. It will go on till j less than c because c is the number of columns. So it will go on till j is less than the number of columns. So if this condition is satisfied, it will take a value from the user using scanf and store in this array A. So in this case, R value is 2 and C value is 2. So we initialize I value to 0. So first it will check if 0 less than R value is 2. So it will check if 0 less than 2. Yes, condition is satisfied. So J value will be initialized to 0. It will check if J is less than C. That means it will check if 0 is less than 2 because C value is 2. Yes, condition is satisfied. So if user enters 10, it will be stored at position A of 0, 0. So we can see that 10 is stored at position A of 0, 0. Then J value will be incremented. Again it will check if 1 less than 2. So if user enters 20, it will be stored at position A of 0, 1. So 20 is stored at position A of 0, 1. Then again J value will be incremented. J value will become 2. Again it will check if 2 is less than 2. 2 is not less than 2. So the inner loop will terminate. Once the inner loop terminates, it will continue with the outer loop. So I value will become 1. So in the outer loop, it will check if 1 is less than 2. 1 is less than 2, condition is satisfied. So it will start from the inner loop again. So where your J value will become 0, it will check if 0 less than 2. Yes, condition is satisfied. So if user entered 30, it will be stored at position 1, 0. So 30 will be stored at position 1, 0. Then again J value will be incremented. J value will become 1. It will check again if 1 less than 2. 1 is less than 2, condition is satisfied. So if user enters 40, it will be stored at position A of 1, 1. So 40 will be stored at A of 1, 1. Then again J value will increment. J value will become 2. So again it will check is 2 less than 2? No. So the inner loop will terminate. Then the outer loop will increment. I value will become 2. And 2 is not less than 2. So the outer loop will also terminate. So after this for loop, we will get this as a two-dimensional array wherein we have inserted elements 10, 20, 30 and 40. So next we need to print the elements of the array. So to print the elements of a two-dimensional array, we will use a nested for loop. How we print using nested for loop, that we have already seen in the previous slide. That is, the outer for loop will start from I equal to 0 till I less than the number of rows, and the inner for loop will be initialized to 0, that is J equal to 0. It will go on till J less than C, where C is the number of columns. And here we have a printf statement which will print the elements of the array. This printf statement we have written so that it prints in the form of a matrix. Okay, so this part is used to enter elements inside the array using runtime initialization, and this part is used to print the elements of the array. So the output of the code will be, first it will ask the user to enter the number of rows and columns. Here we entered 2 and 2. Then it will ask the user to enter the elements. Here we entered 10, 20, 30 and 40. Finally, it will print the elements of the array. So it prints 10, 20, 30 and 40. So if we compare both the code, this is how we insert elements at runtime, wherein the user will enter the values, and this is how we insert values at compile time, wherein first only we will assign the values inside the array. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be adding more videos, so please subscribe to get notifications.